Stay tuned. The show is about to begin. Stay tuned. The show is about to begin.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy C-Roc. I'm back on the What Are You Made Of show here on Fireside and live streaming on YouTube and the Mike C-Roc YouTube channel. We got a great guest for you today. We're just working on getting him up here. Jamie, I'm going to hit this button and invite you up. Let's see. You should have got a notification to come on up. We're working through this update. Fireside just had an update, and I just updated my phone with it. And you should be able to come up. Let me see if I hit this other button, if it'll work. Let's see. Jamie, did you get a notification to come up? Let's see. Let's see. All right, I pushed to invite you up. Do me a favor, Jamie. Go, if you can hear me, hit the little three dots in the bottom right. And then hit the little three buttons on the bottom right and then exit the show. It'll say leave the show and then come back in again. Sometimes you have to do that. It's glitchy sometimes. Because I see you and I'm inviting you up, but it's not sending anything to you. I think I'm moving this show to a different platform next week. Let's see. I'm very patient with platforms and tech, so I'm not losing I don't lose my stuff. I'm very patient, but because tech, sometimes there's things that happen with it, and it is what it is. So, yeah, if you can hear me, go out of the show. The little three dots on the right, bottom right, it'll say leave this show, and then you can come back in the same way you came in. And okay, there we go. Now we got her
there. We there. That's pretty good. I was like, it took a couple attempts, but we figured it out. She said,
"Yeah, brother." Hey, man, are you in Baltimore?
So I grew up in Baltimore. I was born in Baltimore City Hospital, but I'm outside Philadelphia right now. So yeah, That's where I live nowadays. Yeah.
Awesome. Let me move my chair over here a little bit and fix this. Yeah, so I'm in Ocean City, Maryland.
Okay, very nice. Are you gonna get hit by that weather a little bit this weekend, or don't know yet?
Yeah, we have a football game Friday. My son's a high school football player and senior year and all that. Real excited. And Friday the rain's supposed to start, so we're gonna see what happens. It might be one of them cool games, it's like storming. But Saturday's gonna be a washout and all that. So we've had really good weather.
I've got a place in Bethany Beach, so right up the road from there.
Oh, yeah, man. Very familiar. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining me on the show today. I grew up outside of Philly, actually, in Westchester, Kennett Square area. That's where my dad's side of the family is from, and I ended up playing football at Salisbury and settled here, man. The beach is a great place to raise a family. You got to travel if you're going to do business outside of what's available here, but I don't mind traveling. I love it. And yeah, man. So welcome to the What Are You Made Of show. We're here on Fireside. We're also streaming live on my YouTube channel, and we're here to talk about what you're made of, brother. So I really love having guests come on and share their journeys, because I think the journey to success is most of the time invisible. And we see a lot of people that are doing well. And, you know, I'm going to read your bio here. You're a managing partner in Wealth Solutions at Carson Group, a national wealth management firm that offers coaching and partnership to financial advisors. You're a nationally recognized writer, researcher, and educator, regular contributor to Forbes, Investment News, and Market Watch. And you've been published in dozens of financial, educational, and legal journals. And you're the media's go-to expert in retirement income planning and tax law. Now, if I read that, I don't see the journey. So that's why we have to expose the journey. And Jamie, we start the show every time by the question, what are you made of?
Yeah, so grit and adaptability. Actually, I talk about that a lot. I'll do my journey, but those are the two that always come up to me in my mind. Is the ability to adapt over time. I've been I think that's a big part of life. How do you adapt with purpose? And that's kind of how I think about grit, right? That grit's not just doing the same dumb thing and pounding your head against the wall, but it's doing it with purpose. And, you're going to get punched in the mouth at some point. And how do you just get back up? But you get up with a why and intentionality around it, and then adjust. And that's really, that's a lot of my story. We started mentioning I was born in Baltimore City Hospital. Two parents didn't graduate college, ran a construction company, and my dad passed away when I was 8 years old on a workplace accident and on a job site. And so, part of my story was I went to school, as an 8-year-old with a dad at home, and then came home where, we didn't have the kind of breadwinner, the person, doing the work in that business to carry it forward. And that left a lot of, scarcity mindset around the time, and how do you, it was one of your first money memories, recover from that. And it's super interesting because it's not my mom's takeaways from the same, events. Her experience around that's very different because she had owned a business. She was a business owner and a mom, and she knew she needed to pull forward and raise kids, and she did. And so like hers is beautiful, and she's kind of, like a lot of people, my mom's one of my heroes because she set that tone. But from my standpoint, the 8-year-old's watching it from a different viewpoint. Like I've never, I haven't built a business. I haven't carried anything forward. Like at best I can pack my lunch, right? Like that's it. So, I had to kind of watch her and learn from her over the years. And that's really, led into my decisions around how I want to be a father. And I've got 3 young kids too. And, how I try to lead my teams and be a better husband and father through some of those early lessons in my life.
I've talked to a lot of people that have lost their dads around that 8 to 10 or 11-year-old range. And I see a lot of commonalities with that. Was there anything as you were going into your teen years where you started looking for that father figure that was missing at that time and went down the right road or the wrong road or somewhere in the middle? Like, did you have that search or seek out?
Yeah, I did. And look, I think I got lucky, and a lot of life is luck. There are people who get dealt bad hands and then don't get the good opportunities afterwards. And I did. I had a really strong mom who she kept running that construction company, still runs it today. She's 68 years old, still running a company. And, we had a large family, so I had a lot of uncles. I mean, I had 7 or 8 uncles, a couple that lived around there, some that lived in Ocean City, actually. And my one grandfather was around for kind of the gap, I guess, between my father passing and then my mom getting remarried. And when I'm not telling the story, like I just talk about my stepdad as my dad now. I mean, he's been my dad for 30 years and he's a great person. And so I got lucky in that regard. Like I didn't get to pick that either, right? Like that came into my life. It was wonderful. And, but yeah, I mean, I think you have that and like you search. I also had good coaches. I think back, my coach during that time and even through high school was super important for me. And, putting you on the right path, teaching you lessons, helping you work hard, even though it's at a different different aspect, right? It's sports, but that teaches you, so many lessons. And I think you live in that same world, which is, I'm a huge fan of athletes and, people who play through high school, people who play through college. I think it teaches you a lot of discipline and work ethic. It doesn't mean you can't find that elsewhere, because you absolutely can, but you can get a measure of that through sports as you grow up too.
Yeah. So, and then going from that point, what was your first businesses that you were into as far as work, career? Because you said you didn't go to college.
No, I did. My parents were not. So my first jobs were, the two first things I did is I did work in my mom's construction business. So I hung gutters and fascia and did bookkeeping. I mean, bookkeeping earlier before they were letting me on a ladder, right? But putting materials away. So just picking up boxes of downspouts and coils and moving them around the warehouse. Did that probably before I went out on trucks too. And so I got that experience of working in the family business. I was then a lifeguard for a while too. I did that into college and lifeguard at the college pool. I swam through college on scholarship, so that was like a natural fit. It's like the easiest job to do if you're a swimmer is you get out of the pool, done practice, you sit in the chair, and then get paid like $7.25 an hour to just hang out there. And then I like doing that. And after that, life kind of shifted a lot. Those were kind of very different jobs. And then, my first job out of school, I went to DC and did political consulting, then went to law school and kind of shifted into the financial world after that. And so, I didn't have kind of there's no good gap story in between those two, except that's kind of where my mom working and allowing us to go to college allowed me to get an education to kind of leave some of those other areas. I'm glad I'm not hanging gutters every day. That job sucks, to be honest. It's cool to run the business, but to do the work every day is hard. You know that in the summer down there, and it's 108 degrees and you're up on top of a roof. It sucks. It's not fun. And I'm glad that I got a different opportunity than doing that for the rest of my life. And my mom enabled that. Not that work isn't super important. It's what my dad did, it's what my uncles do. But I'm glad that I got a different opportunity.
Yeah, I did. I grew up in construction too. My dad was a mason. My grandfathers all did stucco and drywall and plaster. And, a girl that we went to high school with, dad did concrete. So we used to do, man, pouring concrete is the absolute worst. That rebar and all that. Oh my gosh. You brought back memories, man. I
was like, did you like breaking up concrete though? So that I actually didn't mind that. I mean, it was hard, but some days I didn't mind that so bad, some days you just wanted to get the sledgehammer out and take down a deck or something, and it wasn't so bad. Yeah.
Yeah. It creates character, It creates character. You know what I used to have to do? They would do stucco and they put brown coat on the house, and then it would rain and it would push all the mud and dirt up on the house about this high up. So I'd have to take a wire brush and wire brush it, and I would brush my knuckles against the oh man, I wasn't smart enough to wear a glove. So anyway, yeah, man, you brought back memories, but it builds character. It really built character and showed what physical hard work. You really want to do that the rest of your life, or you want to, use your brain a little bit. So then, with what you're doing now, coaching financial advisors and all that, how did you get into that? And how did you get into writing for finance media and going on the news and what have you?
Yeah. Well, let me say kind of what I do today real quick, and then I'll back into it. So one interesting thing is I'm actually switching roles in 10 days. So whatever October 2nd is, I'm starting a new job. And I'm going to Bryn Mawr Trust in Wisfis, and you have Wisfis locations right near you. So I'm going to run the whole wealth team over there at Wisfis under Bryn Mawr Trust. So I'm super excited about that. And that's I'm excited about the team, but to and they've heard this, but it's a family thing. I'm on the road every week right now for, really outside of 2020, the last 13 years. I've been gone 120 nights this year already, and I want to kind of be in our area of the country, and I want to be part of this community and be around for my kids. I coached my son's soccer last night, and so I'm making a little change to work at a firm that's more local, but still has the same ability to kind of drive impact. I run a nonprofit called FinServe Foundation, then sit on a couple boards, one called Income Lab, which is super cool, tech retirement income tech company. So that's kind of what I do today from a functional perspective. But how I got there was it went back to my mom's story. Like I remember being in law school and seeing all these TV ads when I was watching like the NFL, and it would be like, come do your retirement planning here with us, and then a beer commercial, then a car commercial, then a drug commercial. And those are the only 4 commercials that played, right? So like, and it's just like, but what do people like my mom do? Like, how do they go save for retirement? Like, she's never had a 401, they're talking about 401ks. Well, my mom didn't have a 401k. She ran her own business. She didn't have a pension. And so then I started getting interested in that. When I clerked in the appellate division, I got to work on one of Bernie Madoff's cases. And so I actually got to see the opposite side of really what I wanted to see for people like my mom and Americans working every day and putting their soul and blood, sweat, and tears into their job, was that you had this person here like abusing this trust and stealing money from people and causing a lot of harm, to the point where family members committed suicide after that, right? Like it ruined lives. And, kind of going through that, I kind of went through this period where I was like, well, how can I go into that profession and help build up this level of trust so that people like my mom will work with financial advisors and financial professionals, or even just use a bank. I mean, there's a lot of Americans that don't trust banks. They don't put their money in banks. They still put it, I'm sure you've had people on the show that have said, well, my dad still hides it under a mattress. They buried in the bed. Like there's a lot of unbanked Americans that are distrustful of the system. And the unfortunate thing is it, generally speaking, puts people further behind, not further ahead. Now, like there is abuse of it, but I want to help build a system that people can trust, and that there are advisors and places that aren't going to steal your money and abuse it, and that there is transparency of cost. And that's why I went into this profession ultimately then, was to be a part of that betterment of it and democratization of it so that everybody is entitled to advice.
More about a couple things here. So number one, what do you say about people that are all real estate and they say you should stick with investing in real estate because Wall Street is fixed? And, you hear it from certain people. I'm not going to say any names, and you hear it from other people. But like, what do you say to that? Is that them just trying to sell you on investing with them? Or is there something to that Wall Street is fixed and there is a game being played that we
act in short-term pinches? Don't think that you're going to outsmart computer algorithms. I mean, that's the game. When people get into day trading and trying to shift money around and make a quick dollar, most people in the world know that, like, quick dollars usually aren't there. So long-term investing works really well. It's created a tremendous amount of wealth here in the United States and across the world. Now, look, the real estate's a perfectly legitimate investment. I like real estate a lot. I also like fundamentally like the fact that, generally speaking, real estate doesn't disappear. It doesn't go away. Now, interesting things are your feelings on real estate will change a lot depending on where you live. That's like what we would call like a home bias thing. If you live down in, Ocean City, Bethany, Rehoboth, it's been a really good stretch and home prices have gone up. Now you go move to Detroit and ask people about like, hey, how'd home pricing go? Real estate's this rock solid investment, never goes wrong. Well, no, you had $1 million properties back in the early 90s go for sale for $5-10 grand. Right? I mean, it just went to zero, all the way to zero, right? And so when you think about like, wow, real estate can't go to zero, well, it has. Detroit's went to zero. I mean, it went all the way down to just pay the property taxes, you can walk away with the home. Now, they've started to come back a little bit the last couple of years, but most of those prices are still haven't recovered from 20 years ago. So you do have places in the country, and you had it in Pennsylvania in the steel towns. You go to like a Harrisburg and those areas, Bethany, Pennsylvania, or was it Bethlehem, Pennsylvania? I mean, that place, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, because the industry there went away. So real estate does have risk based on the economy of your local community, but generally speaking, real estate's fairly, a little bit more secure. You still can live there. There's other benefits of it. So like, I own 2 properties. I'm a big fan of it. I don't believe in any area of the world you should put all of your money into any one strategy. I'm a fan of diversification.
And so you believe in diversification instead of leaning into one lane and getting really good and understanding that one thing?
Well, outside of so from an investing standpoint, yes. Now, when I get to the business side of things, and that's where that line probably gets a little murky. So, if I think about my general investment philosophy, yes. When I think about, say, my business line investing, so I'm invested in like three different fintech companies. I invested in Carson when I came on board as a companies. I invested in Carson when I came on board as a partner. So to some degree, what I did is I said, look, I know the realm of financial services better than other areas. So I am way heavily, if you just looked at my total net worth, I'm like 80% into financial services, and particular lanes of that. Not financial services and industry, but like, there's a fintech company called wealth.com. I think they're one of the best, digital estate type offerings I've ever seen. So I invested in that one because I kind of knew what the landscape was and I knew how much better they were than everybody else. And so I've made some of those decisions, right? And so if you look at that standpoint to your question, in totality, I am very kind of in one lane that I know well.
Gotcha. While you're taking a drink there, do you think that we'll ever be a cashless society and everything will go digital? And if you say yes, how do you think that will be handled and everything will go digital? And if you say yes, how do you think that will? No worries. Hey, I'm laid back, Jamie. This is one of the most laid back podcasts you'll ever be on. Like we're all natural, organic here, man.
Good. Yeah, this is my cold brew coffee. The system of rocks and pelts to currencies that were backed by governments to digital currencies might just be the US dollar, but in a digital format. I mean, it's essentially what Visa did, right? Was create a company digital currency, right? And I know sometimes like people think digital currencies are like really far out there, but then whenever I start talking about Visa, people start to understand it better because I'm like, but that's all Visa has done. Like there's not a bank there's not a Visa bank or an American Express bank where they actually have money. It's just ones and zeros on computer.
Yeah, and so in that case, though, there's a lot of people that do have cash, and some of them, like you said, they have it stashed and what have you, and they may not buy into that digital. But the government eventually, like if they do this, they're gonna have to get rid of the paper money somehow. Do you think that'll ever take place? Getting rid of paper money and devaluing paper physical.
Yeah, I do think it will happen. How fast that will happen. I mean, look, there's been paper money for thousands of years. Is it going to disappear by like 2026? No, but I wouldn't be shocked if in my lifetime it was like what you get a stop of production of it first, right? Like it doesn't mean that the money you have ceases to be valuable. In fact, like there's currencies. I guess you could take this analogy, right? There's currencies that you can't actually spend anymore, but still have value. So if you think about like Confederate currencies, the Confederate isn't around. There's no Confederate government, but those actually still have value. Now, they might not be dollar for dollar, but people will buy those from you with US dollars, and then you can go spend that money. So even currencies that have kind of gone away can still have like lingering value for other reasons. But generally speaking, what I would expect is the government stop producing paper money, but then it remains in circulation for a long period of time. I mean, do you think the reason that I see it happening though is, interestingly, it's kind of twofold. One is if you think about taxation, we have this like really clunky tax system and our government makes money via taxes. It's not how all governments make money. Some governments make money off of oil. They own land. They own the products. They buy the companies up, right? And you have government owned businesses and that's where they generate the wealth. United States, we basically kept the government out of most businesses and instead we tax the businesses. So that's our trade-off. Like we get to run enterprise, more of a capitalistic society. We're not going to have government owned businesses, but therefore we give money back to the government. It's a lot easier to set up a tax system if we know where every dollar is and how it's being exchanged, to the point where maybe we don't even really have to file taxes in the future if we have a fully digital exchange currency system. Then all of a sudden you get people that are like, well, I really love cash, but you know what? I kind of would like never to file taxes again. And all of a sudden you're like, well, like maybe I could get on board if that's one of the efficiencies that we gain. Now, I give this example a lot too, which is I don't have one. I don't think I have one sitting around here right now. But sometimes I hold up a penny and I say, well, how much does it cost to make a penny? And it costs about, right, 2.5 cents to make a penny. When you think about that inefficiency, that's super. When you think cents to create 1 cent of value, like if that was your business, we would both tell you to shut that business down, right? Like if you came to me and says, like, if you give me $2.50, I give you a return of $1. You'd be like, no, like it's, I'm shutting you down. That's a terrible business. So the government's involved, like just the act of creating currencies is super inefficient. The US dollar has, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's got a pretty limited lifespan, even as it is today. Like it's like every 12 years or something, it gets destroyed on average. So like we're constantly spending money to keep this currency system up and running. Whereas in a digital currency system, once we set it, we wouldn't have this ongoing, fundamentally, it's a progression over where we are today. It's a progression over pelts. It's a progression over rocks. So we're slowly moving towards a better way to exchange value long term. So that's why I think we'll get there. I don't think we're in a rush to get there. And the crypto world's had a lot of issues in the past, decade. And we're super early on in that. So the technology that's going to make the best digital currency hasn't been created yet. That's also another fact.
And then speaking on technology and advancements, how has AI been impacting what you do?
Yeah. So I tell a lot of people the only business night that I haven't slept in the last 2 years was the first time that I used Chat GPT. And I guess that was Chat GPT 2 or 3.5 or whatever it was. I don't even remember which one I was using. And I didn't sleep that night. And I was like, shit, like this stuff's really cool. Like it's really good. Like this is, because you play around with a lot of fintech tools and most of them you kind of realize, there's not a whole lot there behind it, right? Like it's not, they say it's AI and you hop in and you're like, this is just an Excel spreadsheet with a little bit of lipstick on it. That was the first one that I really felt like, man, it jumped. We had a big jump here over where we were before. And then in the last 9 months, it's jumped substantially. It's so far ahead of where it was 9 months ago. Where I see it playing in my world, right, I haven't seen a ton of disruption or use cases yet in the sense that like people are losing jobs yet. But what I will say is like I use it. It's starting to make me more efficient. When I write stuff, I think its writing is still pretty poor. Like I don't use it in that regard yet, but I will take it and like help create an outline for something for me, and then I work off of that. And it will cut out, maybe 30 minutes of work in 7 seconds, and like that's pretty cool. And so I think that most people just need to start to displace other companies. So it's not that like AI is going to do it by itself, but the people who adopt this, figure out how to make it more efficient, you're going to start winning. Because again, if you can take 30-minute tasks and turn them to 8-second tasks during your day, all of a sudden, like you're doing 4 or 5 times as much as the person next to you. All of a sudden, your pricing can start looking different. The amount of people you can serve, the amount of people you have to hire for the next 1,000 clients, all starts to get a lot easier. And that's more or less where we've seen technology in industries in the past too. They don't get rid of the industries. They just make people more efficient. So you need less people, but you can serve more people. I think that's where AI exists today. And I do put that qualifier of today. I think that artificial intelligence technology is going to evolve so much over the next 10 years that there's not a lot of people alive today that can predict what that's going to look like. It's definitely on an S-curve motion right now where it's it's moving faster than it's ever moved just in its improvements. And so I think that's the part that probably the reason I didn't sleep was, look, ChatGPT is not taking anyone's job, but ChatGPT in 4 years might. Like that one might be scary.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. And as we wind this down, Jamie, I want to thank you again for joining me today. The question I have to wrap this up is, I know you're changing roles now as you broke here. That was an exclusive here with C-Roc on the What Are You Made Of show. You're switching roles now. What is in the cards for you now going forward that you have your sights set on? Like, what do you see happening here? And what do you want to happen in your future?
Yeah. I think about everything like 3 domains. So I think about like my career domain, and my career domain is I want to help, the wealth team that I'm going to be working with to be the best wealth team in our area. So when you walk around, hopefully at some point you're like, man, like all my friends seem to be their upbringing. And then the third one, I think about charitable give back. And, it's the nonprofit that I launched like about 4 years ago now has really grown up, and we just added another staff person to it today, which is always super exciting, right? It's just, we're up to 5 people in there now. We've got, I think we're working with 37 colleges and universities, and basically the point of FinServe Foundation is to help people come out of universities and actually like be on a good career path, from backgrounds where they didn't have parents that were doctors, attorneys. And so we give out scholarships and access and internships and mentorships. And the mentor stuff's probably the most fun thing in the world, because you just see these people coming in with brilliant ideas and passion and drive that kind of re-inspire me to want to get up and push harder too. Because I'm like, there's a new generation, and no matter what you see on TikTok or whatever, there's a whole new generation that wants to kick ass and grow and build awesome enterprises and wealth. And like that excites me. Like I don't run into that trope of super lazy people everywhere. Like there's a lot of really driven people that are coming up next, and that excites me.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed. Do you go on podcasts a lot, or do you have your own podcast?
Yeah, so I've actually run my own. I go on a decent amount of podcasts, and I have my own podcast for a long time, but I'm wrapping that up at the end of the year. I'm starting a new one at FinServe, so I'll have the FinServe really fun guests on there. We had the world champ in boxing, Terrence Crawford, on there, which was I got to do that one in person with him right before one of his title fights, and that that was a blast. I mean, one of the funniest guys, humble, awesome. And then if Ashton Kutcher and Darryl Green, who's a Washington, Maryland kind of, legend down there. So if your son plays football, I probably, you watch old film of him. He was
Eagles fan, but I was hanging out with some old Redskins. It was a good time, but yeah, man, great stuff. And look, man, I'd love to connect with you further, and any way I can possibly help you with your new mission or anything you're doing, you got a friend in me now, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you all for watching. If you're watching replay or listening to your favorite podcast network, I appreciate you being here. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe and comment, and we'll keep bringing more and more guests to you. We may be switching